Hi, I'm Yves Mulkers at the BI and Data Warehouse Summit here in Utrecht, together with Kent Graziano. Well, nice to meet you, Kent. Finally, we meet face to face, so that was one of the initiatives. I had a question for you. You came as well from the traditional BI and data warehouse world, and you're now working for a software vendor, Snowflake, which is the data warehouse in the cloud. What are the advantages for our traditional BI and data warehouse landscape by moving to data warehouse in the cloud?
Well, primarily by getting to go to the cloud, we were able to take advantage of features and functionality that don't exist in the legacy world in your data centers. The data warehouses that we've been working with for the last 20, 25 years were built specifically for the hardware environments that existed at that time. They were coded to take advantage of massively parallel compute and extensive storage in a fixed configuration within a hardware box that lives in someone's data center. When we get to the cloud, you have just so many more possibilities. So Snowflake was developed specifically by our founders with a completely new architecture to allow you to take advantage of the cloud, so that flexibility, the scalability, concurrency of the on-demand nature of the cloud, that you can add data and it expands automatically. You no longer have a storage clause that you have to do. One of the really neat things about it is that now, as a data architect, which is what I've mostly been in my career as a data architect and a data modeler for data warehousing, is I can design now a data warehouse without having to know specific technical details of the platform that I'm deploying on. I don't have to know about storage clauses, I don't have to know about table spaces or file structures, and I don't have to worry about those things. I can simply design the best model to solve the business problem. I can deploy it inside of Snowflake, start loading the data, and start querying the data. And that's been enabled primarily by the new architecture, which we call multi-cluster shared data, that allows the storage is on blob storage within the cloud, which is the best way of storing data in the cloud, and it has the dynamic capabilities of expanding and contracting, again, as you add the data. I don't have to pre-allocate the data, so I can start really small and I can grow to massively large, where I can have hundreds of terabytes and even petabytes of data without having to worry about having an infrastructure change. And I don't have to have somebody manage that. We can simply be loading the data and it grows. And then on the compute side, because we separated the compute from the storage, we allow you to build multiple independent compute clusters, which we call virtual warehouses. But don't let that confuse people. It's not a data warehouse. It is a virtual compute cluster with anywhere from one node on up to as big as you need it, and we do t-shirt sizes for those. So extra small is of one node, as small as two nodes, and I can now configure exactly the compute that I need for a specific workload. So that means I can have a compute cluster for my ETL process. So the ETL process can be running with just enough compute to get the process done in the time I need to meet my SLA. And then for my BI users, I can have a completely different set of compute nodes that they run independently. So there's no concurrency issues, there's no contention issues. I can size it up and size it down on demand. One of the benefits of the clouds is it's pay as you go, because it's as a service. And so at Snowflake, we actually charge you per second for the compute power you use, and we give you features to turn it on and off automatically, so you're never overbuying. You only use the compute when you need it, and then it can be turned off, and it can even be turned off automatically when it's not being used. And this just gives us just incredible power to now grow our data warehouse environments over time, and so in keeping with the agile methodologies that I've been talking about, so we can start small and grow and grow and grow. When you're wildly successful with your BI program and suddenly you have 1,000 users instead of 100 users in Snowflake, that means you define a new virtual warehouse that has maybe 8 nodes instead of 4 nodes. You may use a multi-cluster warehouse, so you get horizontal scaling that automatically adds more compute as the concurrency needs go up. It's an incredible technology that wasn't viable before. It wasn't, you couldn't do it before with the hardware that existed, but the cloud just gave us so many more options, and thankfully our founders saw the opportunity, and wrote an entirely new system to take advantage of it.
So Kent, we're talking about the cloud, so you have as well the cloud platforms, AWS, Azure, Google Cloud Platform. Where does Snowflake fit in there, and what's the biggest differentiator of having a data warehouse or a data platform with Snowflake?
Well, we actually run on both AWS and Azure, and we take advantage of the blob storage that both of those platforms have, and we take advantage of the infrastructure that they've already built out. And so we are working in those environments. The main difference between us and other data warehouses that are in the cloud is that our technology was built specifically to take advantage of the scalability and elasticity of the cloud-based storage and the cloud-based compute, where the others are really, I guess they call them forks of existing code bases. And so those original code bases were written for fixed hardware platforms that lived in a data center, that lived in a server, and they just can't easily take advantage of the capabilities that are on AWS or Azure.
And talking about the cloud as well, I still see some companies are a bit reluctant of moving to the cloud. They hear, yeah, it's agile, it's cheaper. No, it's more expensive, whatever. So what's your take on moving that to the cloud? Is it really interesting to move to the cloud?
I really believe that that's where everything is going, that with the amount of data and the rapid increase in the availability of data from things like IoT and mobile devices, that for companies to remain competitive, they have to have a platform that can grow with them as they discover new use cases and get access to new data. They've got to be able to grow dynamically, and the cloud's really the only place that you can do that. There's just those huge advantages there. The companies that are reluctant to move to the cloud, many of them are worried about security. Well, that problem has been solved. Snowflake has 256-bit encryption built in. It's part of the platform, it's part of the service. It can't actually be turned off. So everything in Snowflake is encrypted in motion as it's being loaded into Snowflake and at rest all times. And the reality is organizations like Amazon and Microsoft have done a superb job of building out security in the cloud, because that was the number one concern of people moving from on-prem to the cloud. And they really have the resources to put into the security and the infrastructure, way more so than even the largest corporations have for securing their own data centers. So the issue of security has been solved by both AWS and Azure in the investments that they've made in building out their cloud platforms.
Okay, thanks for your take on your view on the cloud and on Snowflake, of course. Thank you, Kent.
You're welcome.